Look around the room you're in. The phone in your hand, the light overhead, the router in the corner, the car outside. Underneath, every one of them is the same thing: a path for tiny charged particles to move through. Electronics is the art of controlling that movement, to compute, to sense, to light up. And it all rests on three ideas: charge, current, and voltage. Every electronic device is a stack. At the bottom sits theory: voltage, current, resistance. On top come the components: resistors, capacitors, inductors. Then circuits, then the semiconductors that make chips, and finally the microcontrollers that give a device its brain. Each layer rests on the one below. Let's lay the first stone. Everything electrical starts with charge, a property of matter as basic as mass. It comes in two kinds: positive and negative. Like charges repel, opposites attract. In a wire, the carrier is the electron. We measure charge in coulombs, and a single electron holds just 1.602 times 10 to the minus 19 coulombs. It takes over 6 billion of them to make 1 coulomb. A pile of still charge does nothing. Electricity gets useful when charge moves, and the rate of that movement is current. Charge Q passing a point in a time, let's call that variable T. The current, let's call it I, equals Q over T. The unit is the ampere. 1 amp is 1 coulomb every second. That's 6.2 times 10 to the 18 electrons streaming past every single second. A quick example. A wire carries a steady 2 amps. How much charge flows past in 5 seconds? Q equals I times T. 2 amps times 5 seconds, 10 coulombs. The formula is trivial. The particle count is astronomical. That's the theme of electricity. Enormous quantities of the very small moving together. One quirk trips up every beginner. Early scientists guessed charge flowed from plus to minus, and built every convention on that guess: conventional current. Later, we learned the electrons actually drift the other way, minus to plus. Does it matter? Almost never. Every formula and schematic uses conventional current, and it all works out. The arrow just shows where positive charge would move. Charge won't move on its own, any more than water flows uphill on its own. Something has to push it, and that push is voltage. Voltage is the energy handed to each unit of charge. V equals W over Q. The unit is the volt. 1 volt is 1 joule per coulomb. A 1.5 volt battery gives 1.5 joules to every coulomb it moves. A 9 volt battery, 6 times the push. One crucial catch. Voltage is always a difference between 2 points. It's like height. High compared to what? We pick a reference, call it ground, 0 volts, and measure everything against it. When a schematic labels a voltage at a single point, it secretly means measured against ground. There is no voltage at a lone point in isolation. Here's the picture that makes it click. A water tower feeding a pipe. The height of the water, its pressure, is voltage, the push. The flow rate through the pipe is current, and the water itself is the charge. Raise the tower, stronger flow. Narrow the pipe, that's resistance. And even a tall tower pushes only a trickle. A voltage source is anything that holds that push steady across its terminals. The battery is the familiar one, chemistry separating charge. But there are others: generators using magnetism, solar cells using light, bench supplies converting wall power. Different mechanisms, same job. Batteries combine 2 ways. In series, end to end, their voltages add. That's how a 9-volt battery is really 6 small cells stacked inside. In parallel, side by side, the voltage stays the same, but they last longer and supply more current. One rule: only parallel cells of equal voltage, or one drives current backwards into the other. Here's a requirement we've been assuming. Current only flows around a closed loop. A source can push all it wants, but break the path anywhere and nothing moves. That complete path is what the word circuit actually means: a circular route. A switch is just a deliberate break in the loop. It's why a bird on a single wire is unharmed. Both feet at the same voltage, no push across its body. One last idea makes design possible. Not every material carries current equally. Conductors like copper hold their outer electrons so loosely that a huge population roams free. That's why wires are metal. Insulators like glass and rubber clamp them down and block current. And in the middle, semiconductors like silicon whose conductivity we can precisely control by adding trace impurities or by applying a voltage, light, or heat. That controllability is the entire basis of chips, and it's the reason the device you're viewing this on exists at all. A detail that surprises people. The electrons themselves barely crawl, less than a millimeter a second. What travels fast is the push itself, the electric field, racing down the wire near the speed of light. Flip a switch and the bulb lights instantly, not because an electron made the trip, but because the wire was already full of them, like a tap on a pipe that's already full. So, charge is the stuff, measured in coulombs. Current is the flow. Current equals charge over time, in amperes. Voltage is the push. Voltage equals work over charge, in volts, always between 2 points. And none of it without a closed loop. One piece is still missing, how narrow the pipe is. That's resistance and Ohm's law. That's part 2. See you there.